Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing a season preview for the VCT Pacific team, Zeta Division. So Zeta Division was a team last year that maybe came into the Pacific League with not the highest of expectations, but definitely better than what they ended up placing. During 2023, they were very inconsistent and had some rough results. At lock-in, they placed 17 to 32nd, losing their only match. Then in the Pacific League regular season and playoffs, they ended up placing 5th to 6th, losing to T1 in the playoffs. But then they managed to win the LCQ and make it to Champions, but then they didn't win a single map in Champions. They placed 13th to 16th. So them not qualifying for Tokyo was definitely very unfortunate because they are one of the only Japanese teams, and Tokyo being in Japan, that would make them the home team. But unfortunately, those fans of this team were not able to see this team perform in their home country. So that was very unfortunate, and while I didn't really see them as a contender at the same level as a Paper X, as a DRX, I definitely hoped that they were going to be better than what they ended up being. So if you're this org, what do you decide to do with your team? Well, during the offseason, players out are 10, Crow, and Bars. Bars being their, I hope I'm saying that right, Bars being their extra man. He did not play during 2023. Crow is now a coach on the team, so he's still within the org, while 10 has moved on to a new team. Players in are Hiroronn and Hiroronn. So Hiroronn was a player that was in the Zeta Division Academy team, so I guess their sub team. He didn't play much in 2023 aside from off-season events that were after the VCT season, so maybe he might be a bit inexperienced, but he is a young player. He has a long way to go, and clearly they see something in him. And Hiroronn, he played in Tier 2 in Japan last year, so he performed very well on the team that he was on, and Zeta Division decides to pick him up. Championships won by the org are 0. They have gone close before. They were 3rd at Masters Reykjavik all the way back in 2022, but then they had a pretty quick fall off after that tournament. They didn't qualify for the next one in Masters Berlin, and then they had a poor placement at Champions that year. For their 2023 MVP, I chose Sugar Zero. He's been a long-standing member of this roster, and he's been consistently very good for this team. He just hasn't been able to get this team over the top. Moving on to the stats of all these players in 2023. First off, looking at Sugar Zero. Now, for the players that were on their roster last year, I'm just including the VCT stats, as well as Hiroronn, I'm including the Tier 2 stats, whereas Hiroronn, he only played in off-season events. So while I was just going to put he didn't play, that would be incorrect because he did play in off-season events. So his stats are combined with the Riot 1 off-season tournament and the Red Bull Home Ground tournament. Anyway, starting off with Sugar Zero, he had 653 kills, 638 deaths, 434 assists for KD ratio of 1.02. He was a smokes player. He played Brimstone, Astra, Omen, and Viper. As I said, he's been a long-standing member of this team. Having a KD ratio at 1.02 is impressive for a smokes player. You don't always see that. But at the same time, I feel like some of these stats for these players are a bit inflated from their strong performance at the LCQ because they were against lesser competition with DRX and Paper X already being qualified, as well as T1, so they were just kind of easily the favorites for LCQ, so it did kind of make their stats, a bit more better than maybe it had been previously, but at the same time, I shouldn't take too much away from these stats because they are solid. Moving on to Depp, who was mainly their duelist player. He had 769 kills, 709 deaths, 153 assists for KD ratio of 1.08. He played Neon, Jet, Killjoy, Sova, and Reyes. So again, he was mainly the duelist player for this team last year, and he most likely will continue to be that for the 2024 season. Having a 1.08 kill death ratio for a duelist player is impressive. One thing that was weird to me is that during Champions, they didn't put him on Jet, they put him on Neon and Killjoy, and that just seems like a weird decision because I think Jet, I haven't watched him play enough, admittedly, to know who his best character is, but Jet being the best duelist character in the meta last year, that is a bit surprising that during the biggest tournament of the year, they didn't put their duelist player on that. So I don't know, maybe that was a coaching decision or a IGL decision, but either way, I think it was the wrong move. Moving on to Laz, who is this team's IGL. He had 629 kills, 608 deaths, 258 assists for KD ratio of 1.03. He played a wide variety of agents, including Chamber, Viper, Cypher, Fade, Sky, and Killjoy. So playing a lot of different roles is nothing new for IGL players. I do think maybe if you have consistency, you're not really playing a ton of different roles all the time, but also we do see some top IGLs play a wide variety of roles, and having a 1.03 kill death ratio while playing more support roles definitely is not a bad stat. So maybe if Laz is able to get a lot of help from their new coach in Carlisle, then maybe he can clean up some of this team's inefficiencies when it comes to their strategy and their approach to maps and team compositions. Moving on to their new additions, starting with Hiroronn, he had 1,091 kills, 948 deaths, 260 assists for key ratio of 1.15. In the tier 2 system, he played Killjoy, Omen, Viper, and Cypher. So on this roster, Hiroronn is said to be playing Initiator and a flex role, so we will probably see him replay some of the characters that we have on his character list from last year, but he didn't play Initiator last year on the team that he was on as far as I can see from his character list. But hopefully he's a good addition. Clearly he's good in a support role, so hopefully he can bring some of that Sentinel and Smokes experience to Initiator and be very effective on that. And I think the coach definitely sees something in this kit. Moving on to Hiroronn, in the off-season tournaments that he played in Red Bull Homegrounds and Riot 1 tournament, he had 96 kills, 120 deaths, 36 assists for key ratio of 0.80. In those off-season tournaments, he played Yoru, Jet, Raze, Sova, and Viper. He's also going to be playing a kind of Initiator flex role, so we'll probably see him on Smokes a lot with Viper, but we also might see him, be that Initiator player. Maybe Gecko is played by this team a lot by either Hiroronn or Hiroronn, so we'll see how that shakes out, and that is a bit concerning that the two new additions seem to be quite similar kinds of players. But overall, I don't think they're going to have too much concern when it comes to overall team composition. I see a player in Dep who is a very good duelist. I see Sugar Zero, who is a very solid Smokes player. Lass, hopefully he improves on his IGLing ability and maybe finds a bit more consistency in his character roles. And then you have two young players who want to prove that they can be tier 1 players. I think the main concern about this roster is there really isn't a lot of experience on it, aside from Sugar Zero and the players that were on the team last year. Both their new additions are not as experienced as those players, so it will probably take them some time to adjust. Even the coach saying that they're probably going to start slow in the recent video that was uploaded to the VCT Pacific YouTube channel. But overall, this roster definitely doesn't look bad on paper. I don't see a ton of holes, but I also don't see as many positives as I maybe would like to see from this roster. You definitely want to see more progression from last year, and maybe with this new young blood they have, they can reach that, but I still have my skepticism when it comes to how I stack them up against other top teams in the Pacific. Moving on to their maps from last year, their best maps were Lotus with a 4-1 record, 53% on attack, defense was 67. Split 3-1 record, attack was 63, win percentage, and defense was 48. For the worst maps, Haven, 3-7 record on it, attack was 38, win percentage, defense was 49, and Ascent, 4-7, 48% on attack, defense was 43. So good news for them, they don't have to worry about Haven anymore, but also their best maps weren't really maps that they were super dominant on, and they didn't really play those maps a ton. Only playing Lotus 5 times, but it was their best when it comes to win percentage, and then Split 3-1 record, only playing it 4 times. So hopefully the new coaching staff and just a rethinking of strategy, comps, and just map plans, this team can have a much better map pool, and that should help them. So overall, how do I see this roster? I look at it as good but not great. I think that's a decent thing to say about this team. I think there are some good things that you can look at, some positive things to look at, but overall, I don't know if I see this roster being dominant this year, but maybe once these players get a bit more experience, we'll see in 2025 what these players can really do when they have that experience, when they know really how to lock it in for a LAN tournament. But there is definitely an opening in the Pacific for new teams to jump in and qualify for international tournaments, and with the kickoff format not really being super good for teams that have slow starts, either Zeta Division can jump ahead right away, or they struggle out the gate. But I don't think there's too much pressure on these players overall. I think they just want to see how these players develop, how their careers, look at the start, and for the veterans on the team, how they continue to progress and see if they are going to be a part of this organization going forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think Zeta Division is going to surprise people, or do you think they're going to be a middle of the pack or bad team in the Pacific? Please click like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.